Hello, YouTube. I just got a message from Super Loser. I think it's 1280. I don't know if that's right, but Super Loser. And he asked me some questions I've been meaning to do a vlog about for a long time. I decided not to do this as a Ask Zen because I don't really think it applies there. But he asked me about what it was like when I was his age, which is I think he said 23 or 28, and was I the same as I am now, or how have I changed? And also brought up some questions about the YouTube experience, and I've been meaning to do a blog about that. This may be more than this may be a 2 or 3 part vlog because I tend to be long-winded, and I think I've got a lot to say about the topics in general. So I'm going to try to divide it up into a couple of different parts, and that way you won't have to sit through 40 minutes of me. I'm using that Panasonic camera, and I'm recording an MPEG-4 for those of you that are interested. This is the first time I've done that. My videos are inundating my hard drive. I'm going to have to clean them off soon. Things are starting to bog down. At any rate, let's get to this. Get my chair all situated. It doesn't roll, so I have to move it around. And let's get to this. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I came up. I was born into a Southern Baptist family. Strong religious values were taught, preached, and that's where that's how I grew up. Now, a lot of people have a misconception. Well, if you're Southern Baptist, that you're fire and brimstone, and that wasn't the case with the church that I went to. There are different versions of Baptists, the same as there are different versions of Protestant or anything else. So some dance around that crazy, some dance with snakes, and some don't. And each have their values, I am sure. The Southern Baptists are evangelistic, which means they feel it's their duty to go out and save the world. And a lot of other religions, Christian religions, are not. At any rate, so that's how I grew up. My mother had for all means and purposes, a nervous breakdown and stopped going to church. And of course, when the family stopped going, we stopped going. And we eventually started going again. And I went, and I was always, my father's son at church. And they eventually stopped going again. And when I became a teenager, I really missed that in my life. The Christian experience and the brotherhood of getting together. And I started going back to the same church. And then I was Mr. So-and-so instead of being Mr. So-and-so's son. And that felt good, I had grown up quite a bit. I was 17 and started going a good distance away from the house on my own to attend church. I was baptized when I was relatively young, and then I was baptized again as a reaffirmation when after I started going back and was older. And at that time I was a complete believer. While I was growing up in school, there wasn't a Baptist church around, so my parents wanted me to learn Christian values, so they sent me to a Lutheran school that was in the area. They had everything from a kindergarten through a high school, and or through a middle school, and they sent me there. And so I got a different perspective on religion by going to a Lutheran school, which is similar to Catholic. Especially as far as the church and the rituals and that kind of thing goes. And we were required to go to chapel every Wednesday, and on every Friday, I think it was, we were required to recite a psalm from the King James Version of the Bible. And that was actually, it was hard, and it was taught through rote, but it ended up being a good thing because reading the Psalms also helped teach those values. And values that even today I hold true. And I met my wife, my ex-wife, going to church. She sang in the choir, and I played guitar with the choir and played drums with the choir sometimes. And we had gone on a tour to Washington, D.C., and that's where my ex-wife and I actually hooked up. And we dated about 3 years, and when we graduated high school, we got married. So by the time I was 23 or through 28, I was already a father of. At 23, I was a father of 2, and by the time I hit 28, I was a father of 4. And I thought I had life figured out. And we went to church for a period of time. We became disenchanted with it, and we eventually stopped going altogether. And my views started to change about it, because I started to question, what was it that I really believed about life, and how did it fit in? And there were things about Christianity that just didn't make sense to me. And for those of you that are Christian, that's good. I hold nothing against you, and I don't usually preach what I believe in, although that may be relevant to my personal life. I think people should find their own way. I think people should look at the facts that they have, try to get as many facts as they have, and just decide what they believe. They call it faith because you believe, and it's like believing that the sky is blue. You believe the sky is blue because somebody told you that color is blue, and all your life that has meant blue, and so you believe it's blue. And the fact of the matter is, for all you really know, it might be pink. But my definition of pink and your definition of blue might be different. So anyway, so that's how I got to. I got married and I had 4 kids, and we went to church and eventually stopped going to church, really because we were just really busy with other stuff, and it wasn't a priority to us. Then about 15 years ago, my wife and I looked at one another and realized that we had grown apart and actually just kind of became 2 people who lived together in the same house. And when we realized this, we tried to make it work. We tried to spend more time together. We went out more together. We shared interests like cycling and bicycling, and we really tried to get it back. But by the time we realized where it was too far gone for us to get it back. So we separated. I moved out, and it was a very traumatic experience, the most traumatic experience of my life. And during that time, I like to say I lost my mind. There were a lot of things going on. It was very emotionally traumatic for me, and for her too. And I was only concerned with how I was feeling. I was trying to deal with my demons, and I wasn't worrying about other people's demons, including my children. It didn't hit me until years after the divorce that maybe I laid in bed and cried my eyes out and felt really bad, but so did they, because Dad wasn't there. So there's still parts of that are hard for me to grasp. But at about 40, 42 years old, we separated, and I moved out. And my wife realized, I think, that I wasn't coming back, that we weren't getting it back, and she was the first one to make the move towards divorce. And I don't think I would have done it, but she did, and I don't blame her for that. I certainly wasn't giving her any reason to not do it. So that's how that went. But through that experience, it really made me introspective and start looking at me and at what I believed and who I was and where I was going in my life. I was in tailspin, and I immediately found a girlfriend and moved to North Carolina, and found that girlfriend wasn't what I thought she was. And she was a bar manager. She loved to drink hard liquor. Getting drunk was one of her favorite pastimes. She was a heavy girl. which I didn't see. I looked at her, but I didn't see the weight. I loved her, I thought I loved her, but she was very jealous, and within a year that just didn't work out. There were arguments and fights and people getting their asses kicked and guns being pulled on. She pulled a gun on me one time, and I ended up having to bring the police in, and I didn't like doing it, but I brought them in and said, "If you're trying to kill me, you need to do something." So that's kind of how that went. But all of this made me really introspective and made me look at what it was that I believed. And I discovered that, first of all, I'm not a follower. I'm a truth seeker in that I want to know what the real deal is. And I don't want to know it because you say it so. I want to know it because I can see it. And I've had friends tell me, well, proof of God is the trees growing, and that's proof of God for them. And it supports their faith, and that's great, but that's not proof of God for me. That's just proof that nature works for me. So I started looking into myself, and that's probably about when I discovered Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and started reading that book. And that book changed my life. Just reading about this person's experience, which I could relate to, translated to me, and I went, And I started looking into other religions of the world, and I found that what I believed in was more Buddhist, Hindu, than it was Christian. And I finally asked myself, honestly asked myself, do you believe that, Jesus Christ is the Son of God? And I had to honestly answer no. And I couldn't make myself believe. I wanted to. I really wanted to believe that was true, and that all my sins are forgiven, and God the Father loves me, but I don't. And that's kind of what the video that I did about little faith is about. Sometimes, even now, I wonder, if there is a God, am I an instrument for Him without believing in Him, which is, entirely possible, I guess. At any rate, so I started looking inward, and I found a peace that I haven't known before. When I stopped putting all of that stuff on my shoulders, and just decided that it's my job as a human being to make the world that I live in a better place. It's my job as a human being that if I see injustice, to stand up and say so. Not just for my own benefit, but for the benefit of everyone that comes before me and everybody that's here now that doesn't have the courage to do that to themselves. It's my responsibility as a human being to do that. And that began my journey, which I'm still on, towards balance and inner peace. I think I'm going to end this blog here, and I'll continue it on the next one. So hopefully that's been interesting enough for you to click on to the next one, either now or at another time, and hear the rest of the story. Until then, be well.